Working late nights in silent office buildings can feel peaceful, even meditative. But when the quiet is broken by something or someone you don't expect, that solitude can quickly turn to fear. This is the true story of a night that started like any other for two janitors, but ended with a chilling encounter they'll never forget. As the empty halls echoed with mysterious footsteps, one question remained: who or what was in the building with them? I work for a janitorial company that specializes in cleaning office buildings across the city. Most of our contracts require us to work after business hours, so I'm used to long night shifts, typically between 5 p.m. and 7 a.m. The hours can be draining, but they come with perks: quiet buildings, no interruptions, and a sense of solitude that makes the work somewhat meditative. This particular evening, my coworker RJ and I were assigned to clean a sprawling 5-story office building. Each floor was massive, filled with rows of cubicles, private offices, and shared areas like kitchens and meeting rooms. Cleaning such a large space often took us the full 8-hour shift, sometimes longer. But we had a system: divide and conquer. RJ would start on the top floor and work his way down, while I began on the ground floor and worked my way up. The plan was to meet on the 3rd floor and finish together. We arrived at the building just before 6 p.m. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the city skyline. As we unloaded our cleaning supplies from the van, I couldn't shake a strange feeling of unease. I chalked it up to the long week I'd had and tried to brush it off. Inside, the building was silent, as expected. Most office workers had already left, and the empty halls echoed faintly with our footsteps. RJ gave me a quick thumbs up before heading upstairs, his headphones already in. I watched him disappear into the stairwell, then rolled my cleaning cart toward the first floor's cubicle area. I started with the trash, moving systematically from one desk to the next. The sound of crumpled papers and the occasional thud of a half-empty coffee cup hitting the bag filled the otherwise silent room. After clearing the cubicles, I moved on to the bathrooms. I was scrubbing the sinks in the restroom when I heard it: the front door of the building opening. The sound was unmistakable: the soft click of the lock, the faint creak of the door, and the gentle whoosh of air as it swung open. At first, I assumed it was RJ. Maybe he had forgotten something in the van and stepped outside. But a minute passed, then 2, and I didn't hear the door close again. Confused, I left the restroom and walked toward the lobby. The glass doors at the front of the building offered a clear view of the van. It was parked where we'd left it, dark and still. The doors were shut, and there was no sign of movement inside. I hesitated, staring at the empty vehicle. Maybe I just didn't notice him come back in, I muttered to myself, though I didn't quite believe it. Trying to shake off the unease, I returned to my work. An hour passed, and I finished the first floor without incident. By the time I moved to the 2nd floor, I had convinced myself that I'd imagined the earlier sound. This floor was nearly identical to the first, with rows of cubicles stretching into the distance. The only difference was a small reception desk near the staircase. I resumed my routine, starting with the trash. The repetitive motion was calming, and I soon lost myself in the rhythm of the work. But then, as I reached the far end of the floor, I heard it again: a door opening. This time the sound came from above me, on the 3rd floor. My heart skipped a beat. I froze, straining my ears, and heard slow, deliberate footsteps crossing the floor above. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. There was no way RJ could have finished cleaning the top 2 floors already. Cleaning an entire floor took time, and we had barely been working for an hour and a half. Swallowing my fear, I decided to investigate. I climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, each step feeling heavier than the last. When I reached the top, I pushed open the door and stepped into the hallway. It was eerily quiet. The corridor stretched ahead of me, lined with closed office doors. The air felt colder here, and the silence was oppressive. "RJ?" I called out, my voice echoing faintly. There was no response. I stood there for a moment, torn between curiosity and fear. Something about the atmosphere felt wrong, as if the building itself was holding its breath. Finally, my instincts won out, and I turned back toward the stairs, retreating to the second floor. Back on the second floor, I tried to shake off the lingering unease. I returned to my work, determined to finish as quickly as possible, but the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. When I reached the restroom, I splashed cold water on my face, hoping to snap myself out of it. "You're imagining things," I told myself, gripping the edge of the sink. Just as I turned to leave, I heard it again. A door opening, followed by slow, steady footsteps. This time, the sound came from the main room on the second floor. My heart pounded as I crept to the restroom door and peeked out. At the far end of the room, I saw him, a man walking slowly through the cubicles. His movements were deliberate, almost mechanical. He wasn't looking around or doing anything, just walking. Summoning my courage, I stepped out of the restroom. "Hey, are you okay? You're not supposed to be in here," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. The man stopped and turned to face me. Even from a distance, I could see his face clearly. His eyes were empty, hollow, and his expression was blank, almost unnatural. It was as if he were staring straight through me. A chill ran down my spine. I backed away slowly, my hands trembling. The man didn't move or speak. He just stood there, watching. Without another word, I turned and ran up the stairs to the fourth floor. When I burst through the door, I found RJ cleaning, oblivious to what had just happened. He pulled out his headphones when he saw my panicked expression. "What's wrong?" he asked. "There's someone in the building," I said, my voice shaking. "I saw him on the second floor." RJ frowned. "Are you sure? I didn't see anyone." "I'm sure," I insisted. "We need to call the police." Reluctantly, RJ followed me down to the van. Once we were safely outside, I dialed 911 and explained the situation. The police arrived within minutes and conducted a thorough search of the building. To our relief, they didn't find anyone. But when they reviewed the security footage, what they saw was chilling. The footage showed the man entering the building shortly after we started working. He lingered in the stairwell for several minutes before wandering through the upper floors. His movements were eerily slow and deliberate, matching what I'd witnessed. After my encounter with him, he left the building and vanished into the night. Despite the clear footage of his face, the man has never been identified. Months have passed, but I can't forget the way he looked at me. Those empty eyes, that blank expression. It's a reminder that even in the quietest places, danger can be lurking.